Have you ever noticed that sometimes in life, no matter how hard we work at something, no matter how much time and effort we put into it, no matter how carefully we follow the instructions, things just don't work out. And this is especially true in personal matters and spiritual or religious matters and financial matters. And I'm not talking about when an external influence disrupts a plan, but when we've done everything we thought we were supposed to do and it doesn't work out right. And the more effort you put into it, the harder it is. I've experienced this multiple times in life, and sometimes it was very, I'm going to use the word depressing, but maybe that's not the right word. It was hard. I experienced it in trying to figure out relationships early in life. Didn't know what to do. Tried to do all the things I'd been taught to do, and it just didn't work out, and I didn't understand why. But I've got a humorous example from my early childhood to try to illustrate it. Early on, my mother had taught me how to bake, how to, simple recipes, how to take the instructions in the cookbook, how to measure things out, how to follow the instructions, how to set the temperature, preheat the oven, some techniques. And so one of the recipes I had learned very early was how to make sugar cookies, the kind with the really soft dough that you put into a press. We had the old kind of press that you had turn the corkscrew handle and it would press the dough out through a little mold type shape. I'm not using the right word there, but it would give you this little blob of dough in a shape, and then it would bake and expand a little bit and produce these nice little light, sweet sugar cookies. I love those things. And I had made them so many times as I got a little bit older, maybe around 8 to 10, I could bake them on my own. And so frequently I did so when I wanted something sweet. I'd go into the kitchen, pull out the ingredients, and an hour later I had a batch of cookies. Well, so on this one particular occasion, my parents, it was the middle of the afternoon, my parents were both taking a nap. They were tuckered out from something, don't remember what, and I wanted some sugar cookies. So I went down to the kitchen and started, opened up the cookbook, put it on the countertop, and the first thing you do is you start pulling out the ingredients. You get all the ingredients lined out ahead of time to make sure that you've got everything. Well, immediately I ran into a problem. I couldn't find any white flour. Now, we were almost never out of white flour, but today we were. Okay, well, next to the empty canister of white flour, there was this other canister with something in it that I had never used, but I pulled it out and I checked it out. It's flour. It's whole wheat fine pastry flour. Now, like I said, I'd never used it before. All right, well, this is a little different, but smell it. It smells okay. Okay, stick my finger in it, taste it. Tastes okay. Should work. Okay, it's going to have a little bit of really fine wheat particles. You know what? That's okay. They don't have to be perfect. They just have to taste like sugar cookies. So I set that on the counter. And I go for the sugar. White sugar. We almost always have that in stock. Every now and again you'd run out, but chances are pretty slim. Nope, we're out today. Okay, well, I've got a container of light brown sugar next to it. Not regular brown sugar, light brown sugar. All right, well, I also make chocolate chip cookies occasionally. Those use brown sugar. They come out fine. It should be okay. So I pull the brown sugar down, put it on the counter. Now, sugar cookies only have like 6 ingredients. It's been a while since I made some. Maybe 8? No, it's not even that much. It's like 6 or 7. By the time I was done, I think there was like 1 ingredient that I didn't substitute. I had substituted the flour, the sugar. I substituted margarine for butter, because you can do that with some things. Hint, hint, not with sugar cookies. I substituted that. I couldn't even find vanilla flavoring. I had a choice of lemon or almond. I didn't think lemon was going to work real well, especially with a wheat flour and brown sugar, so I went with the almond. It's like, you know what? As long as they're soft and sugary, that's all that matters. Well, I was like, you know what? I had so much problem, I'm not even going to try to find the press and deal with that. I'm just going to ball them up into little balls, smush them a little bit, call it done, and bake it. So I stuck them in the oven. It's like they might taste just a little different. They might be a little bit darker, but it should be okay. Put them through. They baked up fine. Timer goes off. Open up the oven. They're just starting to look golden. Okay, pull on the mitts, pull the pan out, set it up to cool, let it set for a minute or two, get the spatula, start popping them off onto a plate. Like, I'm going to surprise my parents with sugar cookies, because I haven't made sugar cookies in a while. Try one. At this point, they're still soft enough. Yeah, that tells you what. So, try them. Tastes a little different, but they're sweet. They're soft. Okay. Take them up to my parents' room, knock, knock, knock. You know, wake them up. Hey, made cookies, thought I'd share. I'm like, ooh, something's different about these. Yeah, you know, I had some trouble, but, you know, I found substitutes. Okay, so we tried one. It was hard as a rock. You could have played hockey with it or used it for a decorative stone in the garden. They were awful. They were not even crunchy. They were hard. I managed to eat a nibble of one. These things were inedible. Maybe I could have crushed them up and used them as a topping on something. They were that bad. Now, I said all that to say this. What went wrong with my recipe? I followed the recipe. I had flour. I had sugar. We already know what went wrong. I had substituted too many things that, under the right circumstances, they are a suitable substitute. Not for sugar cookies. Maybe I could have gotten away with, well, honestly, probably none of it. Anything I changed was going to change the outcome. But I had changed everything. So what I had made was not sugar cookies. I still don't know what to call them. They were pretty bad. We ended up throwing the whole batch away. Now the thing is, that's what happens in life when we substitute the right stuff for the wrong stuff. But hold on. Just like in the story where I used what was available, a lot of times that's what's going on with us. See, we are working with what we think will work. We believe it's going to work. Maybe we've been told, I was told that sometimes you could substitute this for that. I knew that sometimes you could substitute margarine for butter in some things. But it doesn't work all the time. But I didn't know that. It wasn't like I willingly did something different. I didn't know. So how does that apply to life? Well, I'm going to start with the one that probably affects most of us, finances. The most common advice I heard growing up, just like many of you did, was, well, get a good education and get a good job and you'll be set, you'll be fine. Or, specifically when I heard, and I didn't do this, but my grandfather told me this, my father was leaning that way, well, go into the military and get that paycheck, and if you retire, you'll have a paycheck for life. You'll have a pension for life. My father has one, and I mean, he's okay, but it's not great. That what he gets in his retirement, if he had to live on his own, it wouldn't cut it. It just wouldn't. But many of us, we went and got a college degree, and now we've got a bucket of debt. Now, I went and got my degree, but the degree I got wasn't that kind of a degree, and it didn't cost me anything. But I've seen so many of you out there in debt with these massive college, the college debt, and I've even heard of cases where people are further in debt years down the road than they were to begin with. What is going wrong? Why aren't we making it? There's this little comic I've seen going around on Facebook with 4 individuals sitting around a table playing a board game. It's Monopoly. And one of them says, we've been playing for, I think, 27 hours and nobody owns a house yet. Well, you look over in the comic, it shows you the lid of the board game, and on it says Monopoly. Is it Gen Z edition or something like that on the lid? Anyway, point is, why isn't it working? Well, I believe the reason it's not working is because we're trying to bake our cake, our cookies, our life with the wrong ingredients. We've been substituting things that we thought would work, we were told would work. We were told this was suitable and acceptable. We were told this is the way to do it. But let me share with you a different recipe. I really hope the camera's recording, because I can't see it from this side, but Genesis in the Bible, chapter 1, very first chapter, as I'm going to call him mentor because he's the person that I'm getting most of my instruction through right now, likes to say, this first chapter is so full of success principles. It's almost like God said, if you don't get any further, you're going to be okay. Now, I don't know if that's fair or accurate or not, but I get his point. It is stuffed with things that you can apply as principles of success. So much so that if you look at the first thing God said to man, it's a recipe for success. In fact, before he said it to man, he said it to himself. Not the whole thing, but he outlined the objective. Verse 26, and God said, let us, speaking to himself, make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion. And then the rest of the verse is what we're supposed to have, all of the things in creation that we're supposed to have dominion over. The fish, the fowl, the cattle, all the earth, and every creeping thing upon the earth. Okay? 2 verses later, God is saying the same thing to man. It says, and God blessed them, and God said unto them, Adam and Eve, be fruitful, and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion. And again, over all of the things. You say, well, how's that a success principle? Well, what's dominion? What is dominion? Well, dominion is control of a domain. It's what kings have, a kingdom. It's the dominion of the king. And God says, before he creates man, he says to himself, let's create man in our image and let them have control over creation on the earth. Then he creates man. He blesses man, meaning he supplies him, sets him up, and says to the man and the woman, because it says he said it to them, be fruitful, that's a state of being, be, multiply, that's a do, that's a verb, that's an instruction, be fruitful, multiply, replenish the earth, subdue it, overcome anything in your way, and have dominion. How often in life do you feel like something else has dominion over you? Out of control. I'm doing all the things I know how to do and it's just not working out. Well, we're not following his formula. I mean, who else is going to have a formula for success other than the God that knows all things, is all powerful, and made us? And he gave us the formula. He gave it to Adam and Eve there. And he didn't just give it there. Later in Scripture, he repeats it again. There's plenty of examples of it throughout Scripture. And at the very end of Scripture, and this is a great discussion for another time, but at the very end of Scripture, we see it, not the formula, but the outcome of the formula repeated. You've made us kings in the earth. Kings have domains. Kings have dominion. So why is it that it feels like life has us under its thumb instead of us having life under our thumb? Why is it that it feels like circumstances control us instead of us controlling circumstances? Well, we're not following the formula. We think we're following the formula, but we've been substituting things that don't work. Like what? Well, here's one. Oh, I'm sweating pretty good. Kind of warm out here. How about instead of be fruitful and multiply and do the things that have dominion, how about get a good job? Folks, how many people do you, stop and think for a minute. All the rich people that you know of, you've heard of, all the wealthy people. Think about what you know about them. How many of them became wealthy by working a job? That's right. If you can find even one, I'd be surprised. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but it's not a deep dive, but in general, like all these people that are pretty wealthy, they didn't get there by working a job, saving money. Now, I'm not advocating not to save money. I'm not even advocating not to work. I'm not saying that. Work is a good thing. There's a time to work. It's in the Bible. But you don't get rich through work. In fact, the scriptures say labor not to be rich. The saying, don't labor? No. It's saying don't be rich. No, it's saying you're not going to get rich by laboring. Don't labor. Don't try to get rich through labor, through work. That's not how you get rich. That's not why you work. You work because it's good to do, and there's good work to do, and it's right to do. And there's plenty of other things in life and in the scripture the same way. Briefly, I could say, why don't the churches have power anymore? Well, I'm pretty sure it's because we've been substituting God's instructions for man's plans. Same thing. Just like, why are we not making it in life? Well, we've been substituting God's instructions for man's plans. Well, you need a good education. By good education, they generally mean a degree. You don't need a degree for most things. What you need is to fundamentally understand how finance works, how money works, how to invest it, how to create value and get paid for it. It's a totally different education than a degree with a lifetime of debt attached to it. The great thing is, it's not nearly as expensive. It doesn't take 4 years. It might take you 4 years, but it doesn't have to. You don't have to be... Being a full-time student of it doesn't have to take all of your time. All of these things I'd like to go over more in the future, but for right now, what I want to challenge you to do is stop and examine the things you've been doing. If you want a different outcome, you got to do something different. They say that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Now, I'm not over here saying, follow me, because I haven't figured it all out yet, but I'm starting to figure some of it out. And I can already see, yeah, hey, I've got a job right now because I got to keep the lights on, right? But I know that's not going to get me wealthy. I know that's not going to get me enough wealth to buy back my life, so I don't have to keep doing that to keep the lights on. That's not going to work. But I know other ways to do it. I know about them, and I'm starting to learn how to do them. And so as I make my journey, I'll invite you to come along, learn with me, join me. Because folks, if we're gonna fix what's wrong with our lives, much less anything else, we're gonna have to learn something that's different than what we've been taught. And I say in earnest, I believe that a lot of what's wrong with our lives, why we're not in control, why the world has control of us, is because we're using the wrong formula, or if we think, following the formula, we're using the wrong ingredients. We've been substituting things that don't work for things that do. We've been substituting, and this is an important one, I beg you to pay attention to this, we've been substituting best, God's best, for good enough. And that's not going to get us success. I'm tired of seeing family and friends working into old age, never had time for family that they needed to, never had time for their kids, not understanding, didn't have time for a life. All their lives, they've been working to keep the lights on, food on the table. And I appreciate the hard work, I do. But they've been doing this worrying about food and raiment and other necessities of life. And God says not to do that. And that's a discussion we'll have to have later, but folks, we've got to stop trying to live on substitutes because it won't work. So, until next time, stay in the Word, challenge what you think you know, challenge what you've been taught, especially by the people you love and trust, because what if they were wrong? They may have meant well, but what if they were wrong? Yeah. It didn't work out for them. Why is it going to work out for you? So, until next time, stay in the Word, meditate, pray without ceasing, and everything, give thanks. If you would, if you appreciate this, hit the like button. I'd like it if you subscribe. I'd really like to hear from you because I want to know what you want to hear about. I'm not just here to tickle your ears. I've got a head full of this stuff, but I need to know what's really bothering you. What's your perspective on it? Because it won't do you any good for me to deliver a message that addresses something that you either it isn't on your mind. No matter how good it is, if it's not something that is part of your thinking, then it's not going to do you any good. So, talk to me. But yeah, if you would, hit the like button if you like it. Hey, if you don't like it, hit the don't like button. Subscribe, and until next time, thanks.